Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going to prison turns you into corporate property. Essentially, what this means is that you, yes, you, could become a tool to make major corporations money. This is if you happen to fall into the care of any private health facilities, private prisons, ICE detention centers, or any juvenile facilities if you are younger. And for your hypothetical comfort in any of these situations, and or if you are sympathetic to the plight of people in these situations, these are all to beg the question of, should Congress pass a law that would ban all privately owned for profit prisons, detention centers, and holding facilities in the United States? So, private prisons came to be in the 1980s during Reagan's presidency. This was for a way for the government to save money on prisons and holding facilities by basically paying private companies a certain percentage of money per each prisoner that they hold in these facilities. And the conditions in these holding facilities and prisons and mental health facilities are pretty widely regarded as subpar. And in an article on immigrant detention centers in issues and controversies in the CCP database, 5 immigrant detention centers in New Jersey were found to have not been treating their prisoners or the people that they were holding properly. They have not been giving timely care to them in the medical sense. They have been withholding clean products from them as socks or underwear. They have not been allowing them to seek legal representatives and see their family members either. And they were dealing with overcrowding and also rat infestations, as well as a lack of basic items. And sliding back to prisons, something a little bit funny, a little bit sad, is that these prisons can actually legally force their prisoners to work. So, just reading through the 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. Emphasis on except as punishment for crime. So, prisons making their prisoners work, even forcing them to work, is completely legal, as stated within the 13th Amendment. So, these prisoners can work or can be forced to work, making no money and making extra profit for these prisons that are already getting paid a percentage to hold all of these people. These companies, they bank on recidivism, which is basically the likelihood of a prisoner to reoffend and return back into the system, which kind of makes sense if you really think about it, because these prisoners are their means to make profit. They're not going to spend money on rehabilitation. They're not going to spend money on a means for these prisoners to properly be released back into society because they want them to reoffend. That's their entire business model. And a little quote for you guys: private prisons profiteer off federal prisoners and are proven to be, or found to be by the Department of Justice Inspector General, less safe for correctional officers and prisoners. These are words from President Biden's domestic policy advisor, Susan Rice. Now, the more well-versed in this topic might rebuttal, didn't Biden pass a law that's supposed to weed out privately owned prisons in the United States? Yes, this is true, but one, this did not include ICE holding facilities, and also this can be circumvented, and the U.S. Marshal Service has found a way to do so. Basically, city governments and county governments can lease out prisons to private companies, and through that, the U.S. Marshal Service basically pays these city governments and these county governments a percentage just to have their name on the prison, but really the private company owns them. So the private company gets paid most of the share, the city or county government gets a percentage, and the U.S. Marshal Service basically gets to put on paper that this prison is owned by this city or county government. And this is called a pass-through agreement. Now, what I propose is a true ban on privately owned facilities. The White House would not be able to issue waivers that allow them to still be owned, which is why 5 private facilities are still owned by the U.S. Marshal Service because they got a waiver through the White House. All pass-through agreements would be nullified, wherein they would be investigated, and each pass-through agreement would be fined to that city government or council government that it is put under, in order to incentivize cities and councils to not do so by, charging them. Forced labor in prisons would go with that, although that would call for the 13th Amendment to either be redone or a new amendment to come out. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it would be ratified. And the focus for prisoners would be placed back onto rehabilitation for them. So a system in which they go out into the world and they come back to make, whatever company a profit. It would be X'd out. That wouldn't be incentivized anymore because private prisons wouldn't profit off of that at all. And basically, if we don't make a change right now by doing so, things are only going to get worse because the rate of incarceration has been steadily increasing through 1980 to now. And using instrumental variables, regressions on state and individual data from 1989 to 2008, we find evidence showing a rise in private prisons beds per capita increases the number of incarcerated individuals per capita and average sentence lengths. That's from Galanado and Roja on labor economics. So basically, I want to thank you all for coming to the end of this video. It's something that means a lot to me. Just prisons should be overseen by the government, not by private companies who do not have your best interest in mind. Because what that's going to do is make you go back to the prisons. That's what they want. That's where the money is. I wanted to challenge you all to become educated on your state and city representatives. Just be educated on their policies and what they think about these matters, because when the time comes to vote and make a change, these people are what's going to help us not make these types of things happen again, where the government or where certain corporations can profit off of basically our demise. And protests, things like that make the word go out to more people. And I myself was educated on this topic from protests that I've heard about. So that's going to make the word go out and more people just understand what the issue is going on in the United States and these private facilities. And I'll leave you all with this. It's time for companies to stop making money off of our misery. Our lives are not a means for them to make money. Thank you.